This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. Welcome to our flower series. In this video, we're piping buttercream apple blossoms. The video is broken down into steps so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. So let's start making the colors for our apple blossoms. We're using American style buttercream and a couple of liquid gel colors. We're going to use some neon bright pink, red, and then just a touch of our lemon yellow, and finally, a tiny little bit of sky blue. And we're using pretty small amounts for all of these, so I've just got a little bit squeezed onto a lid for each. And I'm going to start by making my pink, so I've got a little buttercream down in my bowl. I'm going to do some specks of that neon bright pink. I'm going to make these blossoms just a little darker than I normally would, so they show up on camera. And I'm just going to give it a couple of specks, less on this one of the red, and we'll mix it around. And it's going to be a nice soft pink. I like where it's going. I just want it to be a little bit darker. So I'm just going to bump up the color a little bit. We want it to read well on camera. So I'm actually making it the color that I would normally make the buds for these blossoms. But you can easily make a nice lighter version of this just by adding less color. There we have a beautiful pink for our blossom petals. And next, we're going to make our yellow. So I've got just a little bit of frosting in there because we're just doing some little dots in the center. I'm just going to do a few specks of that lemon yellow, and then just the ever so tiniest speck of that sky blue. I just want to give it a hint of that kind of acidness and make a nice yellow that has just the hint of green to it. And that'll help it stand out against the pink as well. So I like where this color's going. It's a little bit green for me right now. So I'm just going to go in and add a few more specks of that yellow just to bring it back in that direction. And that's going to give us a nice kind of intense color that's really going to pop against those pale pink petals for us. And that's going to be beautiful for our little centers. For this flower, we're going to use two 12-inch disposable decorating bags fitted directly with the tips. We have a number 61, so you can see it's a curved petal tip on our bag with our pink frosting, and a number 2 on our bag with our yellow. For our apple blossom, we're going to use two different techniques. The first one is going to be a cupped teardrop shaped petal that we're making with our 61. And we want to make sure that the skinny end of the tip is up off the surface. So think about the fat end like it's going to be down there in the center like it normally would, but instead of really laying flat, which you can't actually do with these tips because they're curved, you're going to kind of use that natural angle to rest that fat end in the center and allow that little skinny end that curves up to really curve up for you. Then you're going to pull back like we normally would, rotate our nail, and pull back again. And what's that's going to do is give us a nice petal that has a cupped shape. It's kind of hard to do on the tray without it looking super wonky, but we'll make sure we go over that again when we're working on our flower nail. So instead of the normal teardrop shaped petal, this one is going to have a nice concave feel to it. And we're going to use dots on this flower as our centers. So instead of spikes for stamens, we're just going to do some cute little dots. So it's going to be our number 2 tip. Remember, hold straight up and down. You want to be just up off of and hovering above the surface. And that should allow your frosting to connect when you squeeze. There we go. Make a nice full dot. Stop squeezing and swirl it around. And that's going to give us beautiful little dots that we can use as our centers. So for our apple blossom, we have a very simple construction. We're just going to combine those two techniques. We're first going to do 5 cupped petals. These are just going to be right next to each other. And think about it like a kind of little stick figure. So a head, 2 arms, and 2 legs for your spacing. And then we're going to switch over to our bag with our number 2, and we're going to finish it with 5 dots in the center. And I like to think about it like a little pentagon and kind of line it up with those petals. And that's going to give us a nice, tight, petite little flower that's great for a springtime decorated cake. So to get started, because this one is going to have 5 petals, I went ahead and marked my parchment paper with Sharpie, made myself a little stick man, and then I flipped it over and stuck it down here. And this is going to give me a nice guide that I can see through that parchment paper to give me a good judge of where to put my petals and get a nice equal spacing on my flower. Let's get started piping our blossom. I'm going to line myself up in one of these open areas. I've got the opening of my tip kind of going along here. It's like maybe like 10:30-ish, right? If I'm thinking about a clock face, and the back of the bag kind of pointing towards 1:30. Then if I tip it, you can see I've got the fat end of that tip right there at the point in the center, and the skinny end is really rocked up. So I'm using that kind of natural positioning I get, pull out, rotate, and pull back. And you can see that gives me a nice, beautiful cupped petal, right? You really get some curve on those outside edges of those petals, and it looks really beautiful. So I'm just going to go ahead then and pipe my next petal. Out, rotate, and back. Keep going until I get 5 petals on there. And just note on that last one, you might need to take the back of the bag and tilt it up a little bit to get it in without overlapping or knocking into the first one that you piped. So just be mindful of where the back of the bag and the tip is when you go to finish your flower. So there we have 5 beautiful petals. So now we're just going to put on our little dots. So just really tight, close to the center. I like to put one right at the base of each of those petals so they're nested right together. And that'll give you a little pentagon. If you need to, you can even do one in the middle just to finish it off. And that gives us a sweet little apple blossom flower. That's all for this lesson. If you enjoyed this video, try checking out some of our other tutorials in our flower series. If you've got any ideas, comments, suggestions, or questions for us, we would love to hear from you in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecoratingschool.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.